G'day guys, welcome back to Mango Invest. In this video we're going to break down AGNC's financials of the company. They've just recently released their quarter one earnings report for 2023, which is quite interesting. But before we get into that, I'll quickly describe AGNC within my portfolio. I've been holding the company for roughly a year and a half to 2 years now, and still fairly bullish on it. It's got a 14.72% dividend yield. Now, a lot of people are saying that it's a dividend trap because the financials are starting to decline, although the dividend yield is quite high. So naturally, people just buy companies because of the dividend yield without actually having an understanding of the fundamentals of the company. But obviously, always do your due diligence before buying a company, and you should be generally fine after that. I've got 987 shares within the company at an average price of $12. So it's currently sitting at just under $10 now. So I'm negative $2,872. So making the total equity just under $10,000 there. Just a brief overview of the 3-year period. So you reached a top of $18, in 2021, and then ever since that, it's declined from there. And we'll just have a look into the financials now, just to understand why that is there. Okay, this is the income statement on an annual basis. So this takes into consideration, all the numbers at the end of the year. All the way back to 2009. So, up the top, you've got the revenue, you've got how much that revenue costs, and then it comes down to a gross profit in the end. Okay, but you're not done there yet. You've got all these expenses, all right, leading into the bottom line of net income being negative, 1.3 billion. Okay, so, when you date it back to, 2009, we'll see how they're trending here. But you see, a good net income, it's all in the positive, until, 2014, where they've, seen, a negative $256 million in net income. Okay, fast forwarding, all throughout, they're all positive up until, 2020, where it was negative $362 million. Okay, positive in 2021. Okay, and now we're back to negative by 1.3 $1 billion, which is by far their biggest report so far. Which is the biggest reason why the stock price has tanked. Since the end of 2022, it just continuously goes down, and it's putting investors into a little bit of shock. Now, there's something very interesting about the net income of 2022. If we switch over to a quarterly basis. So what you can see here is all 4 quarters of 2022 for the net income. So the first quarter starts with negative $700 million, and then the second quarter negative just under $500 million, and then third quarter just under $700 million again. And then, as you can see with the most recent quarter or the end of 2022, it was positive this time by a little bit over 500 million, which is quite interesting. So, when you look back to the annual basis, and it's got a massive negative $1.3 billion, it's all coming from the first 3 quarters, and they've actually posted positive for the last quarter of 2022. So that could be something there. But what this page doesn't show is the most recent earnings report from quarter 1 of 2023. So we'll head over to AGNC.com. You just click the Investor Relations tab down the bottom, and it shows you all their recent financial reports here. So most recently, moving straight away down to the net income here. Okay, they've posted negative $181 million. Okay, so going back to the first quarter of 2022, they were negative just under 700 million. All right, second quarter, third quarter, and then they were positive in the fourth quarter of 2022. So, given that for the first 3 quarters of 2022, they've had a fairly rough sort of year, and then they've just finished on a high, and then at the start of quarter one 2023, yes, it is negative, but it really isn't all that negative in comparison to the last couple of the last year or the last few quarters. Okay, so right there, I mean, my analysis here is, AGNC are working off a leverage basis. Okay, so they buy mortgage-backed securities with leverage, and then with that leverage, they need to pay a lot of interest on that. And then what's happened, most recently in the economic environment is the interest rates has risen, so their costs have gone up. Therefore, their margins have decreased. But most recently, with the interest rates, they've actually sort of flatlined, and I'm pretty sure they've actually started to decline in the US. So with a declining interest rate, their cost of goods are going to slightly decrease, and then in the future, that's only going to make their the balance sheets and the income statements look a lot better. So that could definitely affect the stock price in a very positive way. But what I like about this, AGNC obviously continuing to pay their 36-cent per share dividend. AGNC were paying a slightly higher dividend, back in 2019. They have decreased it from it was 16 cents per share. They've now decreased it to 12 cents per share every single quarter, but for the last 2.5 years, they've actually remained consistent, being 12 cents per share. So that's another neutral sort of point, is that they've held the dividend for 2.5 years. Okay, moving over to the balance sheet here. All right, now beginning at the the first quarter 2022, the assets were over $66 billion, and then from there you've started to see that decline. So the second quarter 61, third quarter 58, and in the fourth quarter $51 billion. What's interesting is for the first quarter of 2023, it's actually gone back up to just over $66 billion, which is another positive point for AGNC. Okay, so there you have it. So that's the balance sheet and the income statement for the most recent earnings report from AGNC. Use this data to come up with your own assessment, and then chuck it in the comments below of how you think AGNC is going to go in the future. Time will only tell. We're going to really have to wait for the quarter two to come out in the next 3 months, and then from there we can start to gather a new pattern. But as interest rates are starting to flatten out or decrease, it really should mean a big positive thing for AGNC. But again, time will tell. But that's the end of the video, guys. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you like the content, and I'll catch you next time.